second grade when I left the Buck School.
Oh, you were in the first grade in Buck School?
Yeah,
And then when you got to the second grade, that's when you finished with the Buck School?
yeah, then moved to Hammond.
Okay.
Uncle Clifford's wife was a school teacher, Margaret,
In Ammon?
Buck School.
Oh, at the Buck School.
Her and two sisters.
Mm-hmm.
There was Minnie, or what it was, Margaret. Margaret was her name.
Mm-hmm.
Annis
Mm-hmm.
was another sister, and Mary. She married a Ricet.
Hmm.
Happened to be a neighbor to my grandpa Egan.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but Ennis never got married.
Mm-hmm.
Ennis was a Senator Bohr. Used to be the well-known senator from Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
She was his private secretary in Washington, D.C. until he died.
Oh, boy.
Uh,
She could probably tell a few stories.
yeah, that's another story on her. She's the nicest lady.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there was a Ricet cousin.
Mm-hmm.
My Cliffords had two children,
Mm-hmm.
Alice and Virgil. Anyway, this Ennis got sick, and a cousin of mine, Alice's, and Wendell Harris
Mm-hmm.
was her husband's name. They were on their way to Washington, D.C. to get her, bring her back out here.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, Mary Rice's one son
Mm-hmm.
beat him to the gun. And Ennis was, had the money
Oh, uh-huh.
collector. And anyway, so Wendell and Alice never got to go to Washington, D.C. This Rice boy
Oh,
got her.
oh, boy.
He moved to, I think it's Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And he took part of her money and built onto the house up there he had, and her money, and she lived there for a year and then died.
Oh. Well, you've been talking a little bit about family members. In your family, can you just name off your siblings? I know there was Goldie, and then you.
Goldie, Wendell,
Wendell was older than you?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
You had Goldie, then Wendell,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the children are a year and a half apart.
Mm-hmm.
You had Goldie, and you had Wendell,
Mm-hmm.
then me,
Mm-hmm.
Ersel,
Mm-hmm.
then Emery.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to Ammon, in the big rock house. My mother, she was pregnant at the time with Betty Lou.
Mm-hmm.
And Betty Lou was born in 1930.
And what year was Emery born? 1922. So there was an 8-year span.
Emery's a year and a half younger than I am.
But Betty Lou is quite a bit younger
yeah,
than.
9 years younger than me.
So she was the caboose on the family.
Yeah,
And I remember that Betty Lou was quite a bit younger than her siblings.
yeah. She was. She come later.
Okay. And then you have, let's talk about your grandparents.
My grandparents was Erastus Egan,
Okay.
and his wife was Mary.
Erastus,
Margaret.
Margaret. Erastus Howard Egan?
Yeah.
And,
His son was Howard Egan, his oldest son. My mother's older brother.
mm-hmm,
She had there was the four children.
mm-hmm,
You had Clifford, you had mother, you had Howard oldest, my mother, Chrissy.
mm-hmm,
Then you had Clifford,
mm-hmm,
then you had Leonard.
mm-hmm. That was your mother's younger brother.
Yeah.
Youngest sibling. And so that was your grandparents on your mother's side
Yeah.
and their family. And your father, Grover, his father was Adolf, as I recall.
Adolf.
And
He had one brother and 3 sisters.
okay.
He
And
had you probably met his one sister, Doll.
Doll, I knew Doll.
She lived down in Anaheim, California.
Aunt Doll and Uncle Chick.
And Melba, she lived in El Monte, California.
Mm-hmm.
She was my favorite.
Oh, uh-huh. What was so favorite about her?
just a nice person.
Mm-hmm.
She was not religious.
Mm.
She had a good husband.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt Doll was, yeah, water over the dam.
When I was a kid, I loved Aunt Doll because, you know,
Well, that was Goldie's favorite too.
and Uncle Chick, you know, he was always such a nice, friendly guy.
Yeah.
I know. I want you to know that I know.
Chick helped build 2 or 3 different churches too.
Yeah, he was a contractor, and his grandson Don Hokinson is got the same name as his son Don Hokinson, but the grandson is a bishop of the Sandy, Oregon ward, and I just had to send emails back and forth to him just in the last week.
His son Don?
The grandson of Chick and Doll.
Well, their son was Don.
Yes, and the son Don has a son named Don.
Oh, okay, all right.
And it's the son.
I didn't know them.
Yeah, I didn't know
She
him well.
had 2 girls too.
Mm-hmm.
Helen,
Helen?
June.
Yes.
June was a nice girl. Helen was.
Mm.
Uh,
Helen's a hard driver. I've known Helen for many years. I love her.
yeah, if
She's
you wasn't there, why you was nobody.
yeah. Well, she's on course, you know. And if you're on my boat, fine. If you're not, that's fine. But I'm
Yeah.
on my way here. So
You want to finish the story there? My Aunt Melb was, and Uncle Dan was. I liked them. They were good to me.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When Uncle Dan died, when Aunt Melb died first,
Mm.
when she died, why, I got a pretty good pay, income.
Inheritance.
Yeah, a
Oh.
couple of 3,000.
Oh, that's nice.
And then when Uncle Dan died,
Mm-hmm.
I did too.
Oh
Got
boy.
it from him. And I got a note from Helen.
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't see where I should get any money because I didn't know them very well. Unbeknownst to her, I lived there a couple of times in the wintertime.
Oh boy.
It was good to them.
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote her back and says, there's any way you can get this money, keep it, Helen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew she couldn't because she ain't going to get no will until I sign off. I knew that.
Well, you know, these family things, it can cause family discord, and
Oh, yeah.
that's not the idea here. We want to try to minimize that if we can. Although money is important, but come back to Adolf. He was Grover's dad.
Yeah.
What was his wife's name? I remember it right off the top of my head, and I wondered what their children's names were. What Grover's
Grace Catmull was one of the daughters.
Grace Catmull, that was one of Grover's sisters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doll was the baby's sister. She was a twin.
Oh, yes. And her twin sister died, didn't she?
At birth.
Mm-hmm.
Doll.
Grace, Doll,
Grace.
and Grover. It's okay if you don't remember them. We probably haven't.
She lived in El Monte. I just told you who she was.
Oh, that was Melba?
That was Melba.
Or the one in... Okay, now...
Grace, Doll, Helen.
Helen was Doll's daughter.
Yeah.
But the one that lived in El Monte, I think, was
Monty.
was Doll's sister that lived in El Monte. She was your favorite.
Yeah, she wasn't LDS.
Well, what was her name? Was it Melba?
I'll think of
Yeah,
it.
think about it. Okay, no problem. So we've got
Dan was her husband.
And did she have any kids that you remember?
No kids.
Okay. And
Doll had the 3 kids.
Doll had 3 kids: Don Hokinson, Helen,
June.
and June. Okay. And what about Grace? Do you know of her kids?
Grace had she had the oldest son, Merlin.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he got married,
Mm-hmm.
and the year after he got married, something happened. He died.
Oh, wow.
a long story there too. When I was in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
why, his ex-husband had got married again, and Aunt Grace, not Aunt Grace, Melba,
Melba. Yeah.
Aunt Melba.
Mm-hmm. The one that lived in El Monte.
Yeah, she stayed in touch with Merlin's. Merlin was Grace's oldest boy that died.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She stayed in touch with him.
Okay.
And here this Merlin's wife had married this commander in
Oh.
the Navy.
Hmm.
Here he was up at Farragut. I'm in Farragut, and I get a call to come down to the main office.
Oh boy.
I'm in the gunner's mate school, so boot,
Uh-huh.
you might say. Go in there and, Mr. Heath? Yeah, and I'd go at the desk. Commander, I forget his name. Go walk right in, he wants to talk to you. Come in there and, you know,
Got all the medals on and everything.
well, all medal, but he's the assistant of the whole base. They had a captain
Mm-hmm.
and him and the whole big base.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I'm so-and-so's husband, you know, Merlin's ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and shook hands and
Mm-hmm.
visited there, and he says, forget this. We're sitting here, just the two of us here. Ersel.
Oh, that must have been fun.
And, so he was a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he says,
So now Grace's husband died, and then the widow remarried this guy.
Grace's son,
Well, Grace's son died, and Merlin died, but his widow married this guy.
married this commander.
Okay, all right.
There was, the commander he's right underneath the captain, you know.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you don't just fall into that position.
No. But he was a nice guy.
And what base was that?
Farragut, Idaho.
Farragut, Idaho. Okay.
It's up out of Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've talked about Adolph's family. I remember Christy called him Dolph.
Dolph, yeah.
Was that his nickname?
And he was known as Dolph Heath.
Dolph Heath. Okay. And he was a farmer also.
Yeah.
And did he teach Grover? Is that how Grover learned to be a farmer?
Well, my mother never liked him.
Didn't like Dolph?
He, I didn't actually know the guy. I'm about yay tall. When
Oh,
he was,
yeah, okay.
yeah, he died in 1923, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were just 2 years old then.
Yeah. So I didn't know him too well, but then my Grandma Heath was a nice lady. She lived with Doll and Melba, California in the wintertime. She had a house over here on 10th Street.
Oh.
I drive by and the house is still there. We used to go in there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My dad and Uncle Bert.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had one brother, inherited the house.
Okay, now we've talked about Grover, and we've talked about his siblings. Bert was
His brother.
his brother. Okay.
And he had a daughter, Grace
Mm-hmm.
Catmull.
Mm-hmm.
Doll.
Dolph had a daughter, Grace Catmull, and
Doll
Grover. Did you say Doll was Grover's sister, right?
Doll was my dad's baby sister.
Right.
And you had Grace,
Mm-hmm.
was his sister.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Melba.
Melba,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'll turn this off.
yeah.